Get out of my house, you barren disgrace. The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor as Tun's voice echoed through their luxury penthouse in Victoria Island, Lagos. His mistress, Yemisi, stood beside him, pregnant, glowing, and wearing Obioma's diamond necklace. After 15 years of marriage, this is what you bring into our home. Obioma's voice trembled, her hands gripping the dining table for support. The smell of jollof rice and perfectly grilled chicken filled the air. She had spent hours preparing his favorite meal for their anniversary dinner. Tun's lips curled into a cruel smile. Yemisi is giving me what you never could. A child. A real woman knows her place. You're just an empty shell taking up space in my life. Welcome back to Stories by Stoner, where we bring you the most gripping, heart-wrenching tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. Thank you so much for your incredible support. You are the reason we keep telling these stories. Before we dive in, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Are you in Atlanta, London, Johannesburg, Toronto? We love hearing from you. Now, let's get into today's story. Obioma felt the room spinning. The anniversary card she'd been holding, with its carefully chosen words about their journey together, slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor. 15 years. 15 years of standing by this man through failed business ventures, supporting his dreams, enduring whispers from his mother about her inadequacy. "Tund, please," she whispered, her eyes darting between her husband and the younger woman who stood in their home with the audacity of ownership. "We can talk about this. Whatever is happening, we can fix it. We've been through worse. Fix it." Tund laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. He walked to the bar cart and poured himself cognac, his movements relaxed, as if he were discussing the weather. "There's nothing to fix, Obioma. I'm done pretending. Done living this lie." Yemisi stepped forward, one hand resting protectively on her swollen belly. She couldn't have been more than 28, with smooth skin and the kind of confidence that came from knowing you held all the cards. "Tund, baby, should I wait in the car? This seems uncomfortable." "No." Tund's hand shot out, pulling Yemisi closer. "You stay right here. This is your home now. Obioma needs to understand that." The words hit like physical blows. Obioma's knees threatened to buckle, but she forced herself to remain standing. She had dressed carefully tonight, her emerald green gelly wrapped perfectly, her lace buba and iro matching in traditional elegance. She'd wanted to remind him of their wedding day, of the promises they'd made. "How long?" Obioma's voice came out stronger than she felt. "How long has this been going on? Does it matter?" Tund swirled his drink, ice clinking against crystal. 2 years, if you must know. 2 years of feeling like a real man instead of a failure married to a woman who can't even fulfill her basic purpose. "My basic purpose?" Obioma's hands clenched into fists. "I built my boutique from nothing while supporting your dreams. When your real estate deals fell through, who covered the mortgage on this penthouse? When your mother needed surgery, who paid the hospital bills? Money." Tund slammed his glass down. "That's all you have, isn't it? Money and an empty womb. Yemisi makes me feel like a king. She respects me. She's giving me a son. You don't even know if it's a boy yet," Obioma shot back. Yemisi smirked, pulling out her phone. "Would you like to see the ultrasound? It's definitely a boy. We're naming him Tund Jr." The cruelty was intentional, surgical. Obioma had spent years, 5 years of fertility treatments, countless doctor appointments, the hope and heartbreak of each failed attempt. And now this woman stood in her home, flaunting her pregnancy like a weapon. "I want you out," Tund said, his voice suddenly flat and businesslike. "Tonight. Pack whatever you can carry. The rest we'll sort through lawyers. This is my home too. My home." Tund's voice rose again. "Registered in MY name. Paid for with MY money. You've been living off me for years, pretending that little boutique of yours matters. Well, it's over. I'm filing for divorce on Monday. You have nothing without me, Obioma. Nothing. Obioma looked around the penthouse, the Italian leather sofas she'd chosen, the artwork she'd collected, the life they'd built together. 15 years reduced to nothing in a single evening. The necklace, Obioma said quietly, pointing at Yemisi's neck. That was my grandmother's. Take it off. Yemisi's hand flew to the diamonds protectively. Tund gave it to me. I said take it off. Obioma's voice cracked through the room like thunder. For the first time that evening, something flickered in Tund's eyes. Uncertainty, maybe even fear. This was a side of his wife he hadn't seen before. But Yemisi didn't move. Instead, she stepped closer to Tund, seeking his protection. You heard her, Yemisi, Tund said, his jaw tight. Give her the damn necklace. It's the last thing she's getting from this marriage. Yemisi slowly unclasped the diamonds, dropping them carelessly on the dining table. There. Happy now. Obioma picked up the necklace with shaking hands, clutching it against her chest. It was the only thing her grandmother had left her, the only connection to a woman who had taught her about dignity and strength. I'll be out in an hour, Obioma said, her voice hollow. But mark my words, Tund. You will regret this. Tund laughed, pulling Yemisi into his arms. The only thing I regret is wasting 15 years on you. As Obioma walked toward their bedroom, her former bedroom, she heard Yemisi's high-pitched laughter echoing behind her. The sound would haunt her for weeks to come. She packed mechanically, clothes, documents, photographs. The life she'd known was ending, and she had no idea what came next. Her phone buzzed constantly, her sister Ngozi calling, probably sensing something was wrong. But Obioma couldn't bring herself to answer. How could she explain that her entire world had collapsed in less than 30 minutes? When she finally emerged with 2 suitcases and a heavy heart, Tund and Yemisi were on the sofa, sharing the anniversary meal Obioma had prepared. They didn't even look up as she walked past. The security guard at the lobby tried to help her with the bags, his eyes full of pity. He'd heard the shouting. Everyone had heard the shouting. Madam, you want I should call taxi? He asked gently. Obioma nodded, unable to speak. As she waited on the curb, watching the lights of Victoria Island sparkle in the distance, she made herself a promise. She would survive this. She would rebuild. And somehow, someway, Tund would understand the magnitude of what he'd thrown away. The taxi pulled up, and Obioma loaded her bags into the trunk. As they drove away from the only home she'd known for a decade, she allowed herself one moment of weakness, one moment to cry for the marriage she'd lost, the children she'd never have, the future that had been ripped away. But only one moment. Because tomorrow, she would have to figure out how to survive. What would you do if you discovered your husband's betrayal like this? Have you ever been thrown away after years of loyalty? Hit that like button if this story is hitting home, and comment below where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. This story is just getting started, and you won't believe what happens next. What do you think Obioma should do now? Should she fight back or walk away with dignity? Comment below. 3 months later, Obioma stood in the doorway of her new flat in Acadia, staring at the cramped space that had become her reality. The paint was peeling, the ceiling fan rattled like an old man's cough, and the sounds of Lagos traffic filtered through windows that didn't quite close properly. This was a far cry from Victoria Island penthouses and ocean views. Her phone buzzed, another blocked number. She knew it was one of Tund's friends calling to gloat or probe for gossip. She'd stopped answering weeks ago. The divorce had been swift and brutal. Tund's lawyer had torn through her like a hurricane, painting her as a gold digger who had contributed nothing to the marriage. Never mind that her boutique, Threads of Grace, had been thriving before the scandal. Never mind that she'd supported him through his failures. Now, her boutique was struggling. Customers whispered when she entered. Former friends crossed the street to avoid her. Tund had been strategic. He'd spread rumors that she was the one who couldn't have children because of spiritual problems, that she'd been unfaithful, that she'd tried to trap him with lies. Lagos society believed him. After all, he was Tund Nwosu, successful real estate developer with the pregnant young wife to prove his manhood. Who was she? Just another bitter ex-wife with an axe to grind. Obayoma's sister Ngozi arrived with groceries, her face creased with worry. Sister, you haven't been eating. Look at you, you're wasting away. I'm fine, Obayoma lied, helping unpack the bags. Rice, beans, tomatoes, peppers. Simple food for her simple new life. You're not fine. Ngozi grabbed her shoulders, forcing eye contact. You've lost 15 pounds. The boutique is hemorrhaging money. Your landlord called me yesterday asking if you can make next month's rent. This isn't fine. Obayoma pulled away, busying herself with arranging cans in the cupboard. I'll figure it out. I always do. How? By working yourself to death. Ngozi's voice cracked. Tund destroyed you, and he's walking around like a king while you suffer. It's not fair. Life isn't fair. Obayoma's voice was hollow. I learned that the hard way. Later that afternoon, Obayoma walked to her boutique on Allen Avenue. The rent was due in 2 weeks, and she'd barely made enough to cover utilities. The space that once buzzed with customers and laughter now felt like a tomb. She unlocked the door and froze. Someone had spray-painted "barren" across her display window. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone to call the police. But what was the point? They'd file a report that went nowhere. Tund had connections everywhere. This was his doing. Another way to break her spirit. She grabbed cleaning supplies from the back room and scrubbed furiously at the paint, tears streaming down her face. This was her punishment for failing as a wife. This was what happened when you couldn't give a man what he wanted. Madam, that one no-go come off with just soap and water. Obayoma spun around. A man stood on the sidewalk, tall, dark-skinned, wearing clothes that had seen better days. His shirt was faded, his trousers patched at the knees, and he carried a worn backpack. But his eyes were kind, intelligent, and they held no judgment. I'm fine, she said automatically, turning back to her scrubbing. You're not fine. He stepped closer, and she tensed. But you will be. May I help? I don't have money for. I'm not asking for money. He smiled, revealing perfect white teeth that seemed oddly out of place with his appearance. I'm asking if I can help a woman who's clearly having a terrible day. Something in his voice, gentle, genuine, made her hesitate. Who are you? Name's Doten. He extended his hand. I've been around this area for a while. Saw what happened to your window. Shame. This is a beautiful shop. Obayoma looked at his hand, calloused but clean, and slowly shook it. Obayoma. Pleased to meet you, Obayoma. Doten set down his backpack and pulled out a small container. This will work better than soap. Paint thinner. Had it for a different project, but you need it more. She wanted to refuse. Pride demanded she refuse. But her arms ached, her heart ached, and this stranger's kindness felt like water in a desert. Thank you, she whispered. They worked in silence for 20 minutes, removing the hateful words stroke by stroke. Doten worked efficiently, his movements practiced and precise. Not what she'd expected from a street beggar. You don't talk like someone who lives on the streets, Obayoma said finally. Doten laughed. We all have our stories, don't we? Yours is written all over this window. Someone wants to hurt you badly. My ex-husband. The words came out before she could stop them. He's making sure everyone knows I'm nothing. Are you nothing? The question caught her off guard. What? Are you nothing? Doten repeated, pausing his scrubbing to look at her directly. Or is that what he needs you to believe so he can feel powerful? Obayoma's throat tightened. No one had asked her that. Not Ngozi, not her remaining friends. They'd offered pity, sympathy, anger on her behalf. But no one had questioned the narrative itself. I don't know anymore. Then that's where you start. Doten resumed cleaning. Figuring out who you are without him telling you. They finished the window as the sun began to set, painting the Lagos sky in oranges and purples. The paint was gone, but Obioma knew more would come. Tund wouldn't stop until he'd completely destroyed her. "Thank you, Doton," she said, meaning it. "I don't know how to repay you." "No repayment needed." He shouldered his backpack. "But if you're here tomorrow around this time, I wouldn't mind checking on you. Making sure nobody's messing with your shop." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to." He smiled again, that warm, genuine smile that seemed to light up his weathered face. "Everyone needs someone in their corner, Obioma. Even if it's just a stranger who's good at removing paint." He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the evening crowd of Ikeja. Obioma stood there, confused and oddly comforted. Who was this man? And why did his kindness feel more real than anything she'd experienced in months? That night, lying in her creaky bed, Obioma thought about Doton's question. "Are you nothing?" No. She wasn't nothing. She'd built a successful business from scratch. She'd survived a loveless marriage and a brutal divorce. She was still standing when Tund had tried to bury her. Maybe she wasn't nothing after all. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Her stomach dropped as she opened it. A photo. Tund and Yemisi at the hospital, holding a newborn baby boy. The message read, "This is what a real woman gives her husband. You are always inadequate. Delete my number and disappear." Obioma stared at the photo until her vision blurred. They'd had the baby. Tund was a father. Everything he'd wanted, everything she couldn't give him. She curled into a ball, the phone clutched against her chest, and let herself break completely. There in that small flat with its peeling paint and rattling fan, Obioma Nwosu shattered into 1,000 pieces. But somewhere in the wreckage of her heart, a small voice whispered, "You will survive this. You will rebuild." It sounded strangely like Doton's voice. Have you ever felt like you hit rock bottom after a betrayal? When someone tried to destroy your reputation and dignity? Smash that like button if you feel Obioma's pain. Do you think Obioma can recover from this? Or has Tund broken her for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. 2 weeks had passed since the window incident, and true to his word, Doton appeared outside Obioma's boutique almost every evening. He never asked for money, never imposed himself. He'd simply nod, ask how her day went, and sometimes share observations about Lagos life that made her laugh despite herself. "You know what I love about this city?" Doton said one evening as they sat on the bench outside her shop. "Everyone's hustling, everyone's struggling, but somehow we still find ways to smile." Obioma looked at him sideways. "You don't sound like someone who's struggling." "We're all struggling with something," Doton replied, his eyes distant. "Money isn't the only form of poverty." Before she could press further, her phone rang. Ngozi's name flashed on the screen. "Sister, have you seen the blogs?" Ngozi's voice was frantic. "What blogs?" "Linda Ikeji, Bella Niger, all of them. Tund gave an interview. He's calling you. Obioma, he's saying terrible things. That you were abusive, that you stole from his business accounts, that you had multiple affairs." The phone slipped from Obioma's hands, clattering on the concrete. Doton caught it before it could shatter, ending the call gently. "Breathe," he instructed, his hand steady on her shoulder. "Whatever it is, breathe first." But Obioma couldn't breathe. Her chest felt tight, compressed. Her vision tunneled. Tund wasn't just destroying her reputation anymore. He was cremating it, scattering the ashes for all of Nigeria to see. "I need..." She gasped, standing abruptly. "I need to go home." "Not like this." Doton stood with her. "You're having a panic attack. Let me walk you." She wanted to refuse, but her legs felt like water. Doton took her arm, respectfully, carefully, and guided her through the evening streets of Ikeja. He didn't ask questions, didn't demand explanations. He just walked beside her, a steady presence in her chaos. When they reached her building, Obioma fumbled with her keys. Doughton waited patiently until she got the door open. "Thank you," she whispered. "Obioma." His voice stopped her. "Whatever's in those blogs, whatever lies he's spreading, they're just noise. The people who matter will know the truth. What if nobody matters anymore?" Her voice broke. "What if everyone believes him?" Doughton was quiet for a moment. "Then you live your truth so loudly that eventually, the lies can't compete." He walked away into the night, leaving Obioma standing in her doorway with those words echoing in her mind. The next morning, Obioma forced herself to read the interview. It was worse than she'd imagined. Tund had crafted a narrative where he was the victim, the devoted husband married to an unstable, vindictive woman who couldn't accept that their marriage had run its course. She became obsessed with fertility treatments, Tund told the interviewer. It consumed her. When I suggested adoption or acceptance, she accused me of not loving her. The verbal abuse started then. She'd throw things, threaten to destroy my business, claim I was the reason she couldn't conceive. I stayed as long as I could, but when I met Yemisi, I finally understood what healthy love looked like. The comments section was brutal. Strangers who'd never met her called her every name imaginable. Her boutique's Instagram page was flooded with hateful messages. 3 clients cancelled appointments that morning alone. Obioma opened her shop anyway. What else could she do? Hide forever? Around noon, a well-dressed woman entered. Designer handbag, expensive jewelry, the look of old money. Obioma recognized her. Mrs. Folake Martins, one of Lagos's social elite. She'd been a regular customer before the divorce. "Mrs. Martins," Obioma greeted cautiously. "Welcome. How can I help you?" Mrs. Martins surveyed the boutique with cold eyes. "I came to see if the rumors were true. If you really had the nerve to keep this place open after what you did to Tund." Obioma's spine stiffened. "I didn't do anything to Tund. He's the one who—" "Save it." Mrs. Martins cut her off. "I've known Tund's family for 20 years. That man is a saint. And you're exactly what he said, a bitter, barren woman who can't accept rejection." Each word landed like a slap. Obioma's hands trembled, but she kept her voice steady. "I think you should leave." "Gladly." Mrs. Martins turned toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and I've already told the other women in our circle. Nobody will be shopping here anymore. You're finished, Obioma. Accept it." The door slammed behind her, the sound reverberating through the empty boutique. Obioma sank into her chair, fighting tears. This was Tund's endgame, complete social and financial annihilation. He wouldn't stop until she had nothing left. She was closing up early, unable to face another minute in the shop, when she noticed her purse was missing. Her heart plummeted. Everything was in there: her phone, wallet, the little cash she had left, her bank cards. Panic set in. She searched frantically, checking every corner, every shelf. Nothing. Someone had stolen it. Probably when she'd gone to the bathroom earlier. She'd left the shop unattended for 5 minutes, and someone had taken everything. Obioma sat on the floor and cried. Not polite tears, but ugly, desperate sobs that came from somewhere deep and primal. She'd lost everything: her marriage, her reputation, her dignity. And now someone had stolen the last bits of security she had left. She didn't know how long she sat there. But eventually, a knock on the window made her look up. Doughton stood outside, holding her purse. Obioma scrambled to unlock the door. How did you? Saw a young guy running down the street with a woman's bag, Doughton explained, handing it over. Thought it looked familiar. Caught up with him near the bus stop. Had a conversation about respecting other people's property. Obioma checked the purse. Everything was still there. Phone, wallet, even the small amount of cash. How did you catch him? How did you know it was mine? I pay attention. Doughton's smile was gentle. And I'm faster than I look. I don't understand. Obioma shook her head. Why do you keep helping me? What do you want? Nothing. The simplicity of his answer was disarming. Is it so hard to believe someone might just want to be kind? Yes, Obioma said honestly. In my experience, everyone wants something. Doten nodded slowly. That's fair. Your ex-husband taught you that people only value you for what you can give them. But Obioma, not everyone is him. She studied this strange man, this beggar who spoke like a philosopher, who moved like an athlete, who appeared exactly when she needed help. Nothing about him made sense. Who are you really? She asked. Just a man passing through Lagos, Doten replied. Trying to understand people better. Trying to be better myself. You're not just a beggar. We're all beggars in some way. He shouldered his backpack. Begging for acceptance, for love, for purpose. I'm just more honest about it. Before she could respond, he was walking away again, disappearing into the Lagos evening like smoke. That night, Obioma couldn't stop thinking about him. She Googled Doten Lagos beggar, but found nothing. She asked around the neighborhood, but nobody seemed to know much about him. Just that he'd been around for a few months, always polite, never causing trouble. Her sister called again. Sister, Tun's lawyer sent papers. He's suing you for defamation. What? Obioma's stomach dropped. I haven't said anything publicly about him. He's claiming your hostile attitude and refusal to move on constitute harassment. He wants a restraining order and monetary damages. This was insane. Tund was rewriting reality itself, and the courts were letting him. What do I do? Obioma whispered. Fight, Ngozi said fiercely. We find a good lawyer, and we fight. But lawyers cost money Obioma didn't have. Fighting meant prolonging the nightmare, staying tied to Tund indefinitely. Maybe Mrs. Martins was right. Maybe she should just accept defeat. Obioma looked at her grandmother's necklace on the dresser, the only thing of value she had left. She could sell it, hire a lawyer, fight this final battle. Or she could let go. Disappear. Start over somewhere Tund Nwosu's shadow didn't reach. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The lotus flower blooms most beautifully from the murkiest water. Don't let them convince you that mud is your destiny. D. Doten. Somehow, he'd gotten her number. Somehow, he knew exactly what she needed to hear. Obioma clutched her phone, reading the message again and again. The lotus flower. Beautiful from murky water. Maybe she wasn't finished yet. Maybe this was just the beginning. The invitation arrived on a Saturday morning, hand-delivered by courier. Thick cream cardstock with gold embossing announced, Tund Nwosu and Yemisi Okafor request the pleasure of your company as they celebrate their union. The Oriental Hotel, Victoria Island. Obioma stared at it, her coffee growing cold in her hand. They were having a wedding. A proper, lavish wedding. Less than 6 months after the divorce was finalized. The cruelty was intentional. Tund had made sure she'd receive an invitation, made sure she'd know that while she struggled in a cramped flat in Acadia, he was celebrating his new life in the same luxury hotel where they'd held their own reception 15 years ago. He wants you to come, Ngozi said when Obioma called her. He wants you to watch him parade his victory. I'm not going. Good. That man is a demon. But the invitation sat on Obioma's table all week, a poisonous reminder of everything she'd lost. Social media exploded with pre-wedding photos, Yemisi in designer gowns, Tund looking prosperous and proud, baby Tund Jr. swaddled in expensive fabrics. #LoveWins was their chosen hashtag. Love wins. As if their relationship was some romantic triumph instead of an affair built on betrayal and cruelty. Obioma's boutique continued its slow death. That week, she had exactly 3 customers. 1 bought a scarf. 2 just browsed out of morbid curiosity, whispering as they left. The rent was due in 5 days, and she was 200,000 naira short. On Thursday evening, She sat outside her shop staring at the numbers in her account, trying to make the mathematics work. They wouldn't. No matter how she calculated, she was drowning. You look like you're trying to solve world hunger. Doton appeared beside her, carrying 2 bottles of malt drink. He handed her one without asking if she wanted it. Worse, Obioma said. I'm trying to figure out how to pay rent. The boutique. She nodded. I'm losing it. Everything I built is slipping away, and I can't stop it. Doton sat beside her on the bench, silent for a moment. What if you didn't try to stop it? Excuse me. What if you let it go? He turned to face her. This shop is beautiful, but it's also an anchor keeping you tied to this version of your life. The version where you're defined by your ex-husband's narrative. I built this business from nothing, Obioma protested. It's all I have. No. Doton's voice was gentle but firm. It's a building. You, your creativity, your resilience, your business sense, that's what you have. And you can rebuild that anywhere. Obioma wanted to argue, but the truth of his words settled over her like a heavy blanket. She'd been clinging to the boutique because it represented her identity before Tund destroyed everything. But maybe holding on was just another form of letting him win. His wedding is this Saturday, she said quietly. At the Oriental Hotel. Are you going? No. But I can't stop thinking about it. He's celebrating while I'm here counting coins, trying to survive. How is that fair? Doton took a long drink from his malt. Fairness is a myth we tell ourselves to make sense of chaos. But here's what I know. People like your ex-husband, they're not celebrating. They're performing. There's a difference. What do you mean? Think about it. A man who's truly happy, truly at peace. Does he need to throw an extravagant wedding to prove it? Does he need to send an invitation to his ex-wife? Does he need social media hashtags and public displays? Doton shook his head. He's trying to convince everyone, including himself, that he made the right choice. Obioma had never thought about it that way. She'd been so consumed by her own pain that she hadn't questioned Tund's motivations. You think he has regrets? I think he has doubts, Doton corrected. And people with doubts make a lot of noise to drown out the questions in their heads. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the Lagos evening unfold around them. Street vendors called out their wares, Danfo buses honked aggressively, children played football in the street despite their mother's warnings. Can I ask you something? Obioma said finally. Always. Why are you really here? And don't tell me you're just passing through. Nobody just passes through Lagos for 3 months. Doton smiled, but something flickered in his eyes, a guardedness she hadn't seen before. I'm on a journey, trying to understand something I lost touch with. What? Humanity. He said it simply, without drama. I spent years in a world where everything had a price tag, where relationships were transactions. I needed to remember what it felt like to connect with people without an agenda. So you became a beggar? I became invisible, he corrected. When you're wealthy, powerful, people see what you represent, not who you are. When you're nobody, you see who people really are, including yourself. Obioma studied his face, the sharp intelligence in his eyes, the careful way he chose his words, the contradiction between his appearance and his bearing. You're not telling me everything. Neither are you, Doton countered gently. We all have secrets, Obioma. The question is whether those secrets define us or whether we define ourselves despite them. Saturday arrived, and with it came the social media deluge. Every Lagos influencer and society figure posted photos from Tund's wedding. The decorations were lavish, white roses and gold accents everywhere. Yemisi wore 3 different dresses, each more extravagant than the last. Tund looked like a king presiding over his court. The hashtag Tund and Yemisi Forever trended on Nigerian Twitter. Obioma turned off her phone. She couldn't watch anymore. Instead, she did something she hadn't done in months. she went to the beach at Bar Beach. She took a danfo, squeezed between passengers, and paid the 20 naira fare that once would have seemed insignificant but now represented a careful calculation. The Atlantic Ocean stretched before her, endless and indifferent to human drama. She walked along the shore, letting the water wash over her feet, feeling the sand shift beneath her. Thought I might find you here. She turned. Doughton stood a few feet away, barefoot, his worn trousers rolled up to his knees. Are you following me? But she smiled as she said it. Maybe. He walked to stand beside her. Or maybe I just know that when the world gets too loud, people come to places where nature is louder. They walked in silence, the ocean roaring beside them. I'm going to lose the boutique, Obioma said finally. I can't make the rent. I know. I thought I'd feel more devastated. But standing here watching the ocean, it doesn't seem to matter as much. Because it's just a building, Doughton reminded her. Not your worth. Tund would say I'm a failure. That he was right about me all along. Tund is a man who judges success by Instagram likes and gold watches. Doughton stopped walking, turning to face her. Do you know what real success is? It's standing here after everything you've been through, still breathing, still fighting, still capable of finding beauty in a sunset. That's success. Everything else is just noise. Obioma felt tears prick her eyes. Why are you so kind to me? You don't even know me. I know enough. His voice was soft. I know you're stronger than you believe. I know you've survived what would have broken most people. I know that despite everything, you haven't let bitterness consume you. How can you see that when I can barely see it myself? Because I'm not blinded by proximity. Doughton smiled. Sometimes strangers see us more clearly than the people who claim to love us. As the sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in impossible colors, Obioma felt something shift inside her. Maybe Doughton was right. Maybe losing the boutique wasn't the end. It was just the closing of a chapter she'd been too afraid to finish. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For reminding me that I'm more than what Tund said I was. Doughton's expression was unreadable in the fading light. You were always more, Obioma. You just forgot for a while. Monday morning, Obioma called her landlord and negotiated a closure. She'd liquidate her inventory, settle what debts she could, and walk away. It hurt, deeply, but it also felt like releasing a weight she'd been carrying too long. Ngozi was furious. You're just giving up? Sister, this is what Tund wants. No, Obioma said calmly. What Tund wants is for me to keep struggling, keep fighting for scraps, keep proving that his narrative about me is true. I'm choosing a different path. What path? You have no job, no business, no plan. I'll figure it out. But the truth was, she had no idea what came next. For the first time in her adult life, Obioma was completely untethered. No husband, no business, no clear identity. It was terrifying. It was also strangely liberating. That evening, she returned to the boutique one last time. Doughton was already there, sitting on their usual bench. Heard you're closing, he said. News travels fast. It's a small neighborhood. He patted the bench beside him. How do you feel? Scared? Relieved? Lost? She sat down. All of it at once. That sounds about right for new beginnings. They sat in comfortable silence until Obioma said, I saw the wedding photos. They looked happy. They looked expensive, Doughton corrected. There's a difference. You really think he's not happy? Doughton turned to look at her directly. I think your ex-husband is a man who confused possession with love, status with success. He'll wake up one day and realize that all the things he collected, the young wife, the baby, the social media praise, they don't fill the emptiness inside him. But by then, it'll be too late. And me? What do I get? Freedom, Doughton said simply. The freedom to discover who Obioma is when she's not performing for someone else's approval. As the Lagos night settled around them, Obioma realized she was starting to look forward to these conversations, to this strange man's presence in her life. He asked nothing from her except honesty, gave nothing except wisdom wrapped in kindness. Who was Doten really? And why did it feel like he was saving her life without ever asking for anything in return? Like this if you've ever had to let go of something you built to save yourself. Sometimes losing everything is the first step to finding yourself again. Tun's perfect life is about to start cracking. Make sure you're subscribed because Chapter 5 shows what's really happening behind Yemisi's smile. And Obioma is about to discover something shocking about Doten. Do you think Obioma made the right choice closing her boutique? Or should she have kept fighting? Drop your opinion in the comments below. 3 weeks after closing the boutique, Obioma found herself working at a friend's fabric store in Surulere. The pay was modest, the work humbling. She went from business owner to sales assistant overnight. But it was honest work, and it paid her rent. More importantly, it gave her breathing room to think, to plan, to slowly piece herself back together. She still met Doten most evenings. Their friendship had become the one constant in her chaotic life. He'd shown up at her new workplace on her first day, bringing her lunch, jollof rice and chicken from a nearby buka. "How did you know I was here?" she'd asked, surprised. "I pay attention," he'd said with that mysterious smile. Now, sitting outside a suya spot on a Friday evening, sharing grilled meat and soft drinks, Obioma felt something she hadn't felt in months: peace. "You look different," Doten observed. "Lighter somehow." "I feel different." Obioma wiped pepper from her fingers. "It's strange. I have less than I've ever had, no business, no status, working a job I'm overqualified for, but I'm sleeping better than I have in years." "Because you're not performing anymore," Doten said. "You're just living." "Is that what you're doing? Just living?" Doten's expression shifted. Something guarded, careful. Something like that. Before Obioma could press further, her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Obioma." The voice was male, unfamiliar. "This is Bayo, Tun's former business partner." Her stomach tightened. "What do you want?" "To warn you. And maybe to apologize." He sounded tired. "I need to meet with you. It's about Tund, and you need to know the truth before it's too late." They met at a quiet restaurant in Ikeja the next afternoon. Bayo was a stocky man in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit that hung slightly loose on him, like he'd lost weight recently. "Thank you for coming," he said as Obioma sat down. "I know you have no reason to trust me." "You're right. I don't." Obioma's voice was cold. "You stood beside Tund while he destroyed me. You said nothing." "I know." Bayo's face creased with shame. "I told myself it wasn't my business, that marriages were complicated. But watching what he did to you, Obioma, it wasn't right. Why contact me now?" Bayo pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages. "Because Tund is being investigated for fraud. Real estate deals that never existed, investors' money that disappeared, forged documents. The EFCC is building a case." Obioma's heart raced. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission didn't investigate unless they had solid evidence. "What does this have to do with me?" "Everything." Bayo turned his phone to show her bank statements. "Tund moved money through your accounts during your marriage. Made it look like you were complicit in his schemes. If this investigation leads to prosecution, your name is all over the paperwork." The restaurant tilted. Obioma gripped the table. I didn't know anything about his business dealings." "I believe you. But the evidence suggests otherwise." Bayo's voice was urgent. "I'm coming forward as a witness, cooperating with investigators. But I needed to warn you first. Tund is going down, and he's planning to take you with him." "Why would he do that?" "Because you're the perfect scapegoat. The bitter ex-wife with financial motivation. He's already been planting seeds, telling people you stole from him, that you were jealous of his success. If the EFCC comes for him, he'll say you were the mastermind, that he was trying to protect you. Obioma felt sick. This wasn't just about destroying her reputation anymore. Tund was setting her up for prison. What do I do? Get a lawyer. A good one. Tell them everything, every document you signed, every transaction you remember. The truth will protect you, but only if you speak first. Bayo stood, leaving a business card on the table. That's my lawyer. Tell him I referred you. He'll help. After he left, Obioma sat frozen, staring at the card. A lawyer meant money she didn't have. Fighting this meant entering another battle when she'd barely survived the last one. Her phone buzzed. Doten. Where are you? Want to make sure you're okay. She typed back her location, and 15 minutes later, he appeared, concern written all over his face. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. Obioma told him everything. The fraud investigation, Tun's plan to frame her, Bayo's warning. The words tumbled out in a rush, and when she finished, she was shaking. Doten listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each revelation. This is who he is, Obioma whispered. This is the man I spent 15 years with. A criminal. A coward who's willing to send his ex-wife to prison to save himself. Do you have copies of any documents? Bank statements, contracts, anything that proves you had no involvement in his business? Some. Not many. He handled all the finances. She laughed bitterly. He said I shouldn't worry my pretty head about business matters. Now I understand why. Doten was quiet for a long moment, his jaw tight. When he finally spoke, his voice was controlled but angry. You need legal representation. Immediately. I can't afford. I know someone. Doten pulled out his phone, not the cheap Nokia she'd seen him use before, but a sleek iPhone that looked brand new. Someone who owes me a favor. Obioma stared at the phone. Doten, what? Don't ask questions right now. Just trust me. He made a call, speaking in low tones. Yes, it's urgent. Fraud case, EFCC investigation. Innocent party being framed by ex-husband. I need the best. Money is not an issue, I'll handle it. Tomorrow morning? Perfect. He hung up and looked at Obioma. You have an appointment tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Colonel Adeyemi. He's one of the best criminal defense attorneys in Lagos. Doten, I can't accept. You can and you will. His voice was firm. This isn't charity, Obioma. This is justice. That man tried to destroy you emotionally, financially, socially. Now he's trying to destroy you legally. It stops here. Who are you? The question burst from her. You're not just some beggar, some homeless man passing through Lagos. That phone alone costs more than I make in 3 months. You speak like someone educated abroad. You have connections to top lawyers. Who are you really? Doten's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something there. Conflict. Guilt. A decision being made. I'm someone who's been lying to you, he said quietly. And you deserve to know the truth. But not here, not now. First, we handle this crisis. Then I'll tell you everything. I promise. Tell me now. Tomorrow, Doten insisted. After you meet with the lawyer, after we have a plan to protect you. Please. Obioma. Trust me one more day. She wanted to demand answers, to push him, to understand what was happening. But exhaustion overwhelmed her. She'd fought so many battles, survived so many betrayals. One more day, she agreed. But tomorrow, Doten, whoever you are, I want the truth. You'll have it. He stood, offering his hand. Let me take you home. They rode in silence in a taxi, which Doten paid for with crisp bills from a wallet that definitely didn't belong to a beggar. When they reached her building, he walked her to the door. Whatever happens, he said, you're not alone in this. You hear me? You're not alone. Obioma nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. That night, she lay awake thinking about everything. Tun's betrayal had new dimensions. He wasn't just cruel, he was criminal. And Doten, the one person who'd shown her genuine kindness, was hiding something significant. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. She almost ignored it, but the headline caught her eye. Trouble in Paradise? Sources say Tun Nwosu's new marriage already rocky as wife Yemisi caught partying with ex-boyfriend. Obioma clicked the link. Photos showed Yemisi at a nightclub, dancing intimately with a younger man, no wedding ring visible. Baby Tun Jr. was apparently with a nanny while Yemisi enjoyed Lagos nightlife. The comments were brutal. The same people who'd celebrated their wedding now tore Yemisi apart. Obioma felt no satisfaction, only a strange sadness. Tund had destroyed their marriage for this woman, and she was already showing her true colors. Another article caught her attention. Real estate mogul Tund Nwosu under EFCC investigation for alleged fraud. So it was public now. Tun's empire was crumbling. Her phone rang. Tun's name flashed on the screen, the first time he'd called her directly since the divorce. Against her better judgment, she answered. Obioma. His voice was desperate, nothing like the arrogant man who'd kicked her out of their penthouse. I need your help. You need my help. She almost laughed. After everything you've done? Please. The EFCC, they're freezing my accounts, seizing properties. Yemisi left, took the baby and went back to her mother. I have nothing. No one. You're the only person who knows the real me, who understands. I don't know you at all, Obioma interrupted, her voice cold. The man I thought I knew was a fantasy. You're a stranger. A criminal stranger who tried to frame me for your crimes. What? No. Obioma, I would never. Bayo told me everything. The documents, the accounts in my name, your plan to make me the scapegoat. Her voice shook with rage. You weren't content with destroying my life. You wanted to send me to prison. Silence on the other end. Then, it wasn't supposed to be like this. I panicked. The investigators were getting close, and you needed someone to blame. Obioma felt eerily calm. Well, it won't work. I'm getting a lawyer. I'm fighting back. And Tund? I hope they throw the book at you. You don't mean that. We were married for 15 years. That has to count for something. It did count for something, Obioma said. It taught me exactly what kind of man you are. Goodbye, Tund. She hung up, blocking his number immediately. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. From relief. From the realization that she'd finally, truly broken free. Tomorrow she'd meet with the lawyer. Tomorrow Doten would reveal his secrets. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, for the first time since Tund had shouted at her to leave their home, Obioma Nwosu felt like a survivor instead of a victim. And that was enough. Hit that like button if you've ever had someone try to drag you down with them. Tund is getting exactly what he deserves. This story is about to get explosive. Doten's secret identity is revealed in Chapter 6, and you will not believe who he really is. Smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. What do you think? Should Obioma help Tund or let him face the consequences alone? And what do you think Doten is hiding? Comment your theories below. We read every comment. The law office of Colonel Adeyemi was in Ikoyi, occupying the 10th floor of a gleaming glass building that screamed money and power. Obioma felt out of place in her simple Ankara dress, carrying a folder of documents she'd managed to gather overnight. Doten met her in the lobby, but he looked different. Gone were the worn clothes and patched trousers. He wore tailored navy trousers, a crisp white shirt, and leather shoes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His hair was freshly cut, his beard neatly trimmed. Obioma stopped dead. Doten. I know. I owe you explanations. His eyes pleaded for patience. After the meeting. I promise. They rode the elevator in tense silence. Attorney Colonel Adeyemi was a sharp-eyed man in his 40s who radiated competence. He spent 2 hours going through Obioma's documents, asking detailed questions, taking meticulous notes. Mrs. Nwosu, you're in a precarious position, but not hopeless, he concluded. Your ex-husband used your identity without your knowledge or consent. That's fraud against you, not by you. We can prove you had no access to business accounts, no signature authority on major transactions. Will the EFCC believe that? Obioma asked. With proper documentation and witness testimony, yes. Colonel glanced at Doughton. Mr. Olamide has already agreed to cover my fees and assist with the investigation. Obioma's head snapped toward Doughton. Mr. Olamide? Doughton shifted uncomfortably. My full name is Doughton Olamide. The name hit her like electricity. Doughton Olamide. Everyone in Nigeria knew that name. Tech billionaire, founder of Olamide Tech, one of the richest men in Africa. Forbes featured him annually. He'd built a software empire from scratch. No, Obioma whispered. That's impossible. Doughton Olamide lives in, he's always in suits, on magazine covers, at government functions. That's who everyone sees, Doughton said quietly. It's not who I am. Obioma stood abruptly. Excuse us, Mr. Adeyemi. She grabbed Doughton's arm, practically dragging him into the hallway. The moment the door closed, she exploded. You're Doughton Olamide? The Doughton Olamide? And you've been pretending to be a beggar for months. Yes. Why? Her voice cracked with betrayal. Was this some sick game? Were you studying me like a lab rat? Getting entertainment from the desperate divorced woman? No. Doughton's face showed genuine pain. Obioma, please listen. I poured my heart out to you. I cried in front of you. I trusted you. Tears streamed down her face. And the whole time you were lying, pretending to be someone you're not, probably laughing at how pathetic I was. I was never laughing. Doughton's voice was fierce. Not once. Not ever. Then why? Why the disguise? Why not just tell me the truth? Doughton ran his hand over his face. 2 years ago, my wife left me. Took our daughter, moved to London, said I was married to my company, not to her. She was right. I'd become someone I didn't recognize. Obsessed with deals, profits, status. Everything was transactional. He paused, collecting himself. I started going out in disguise to remember what real life looked like. To talk to people who didn't want anything from me except human connection. I documented it initially for a charity documentary about homelessness and poverty. So I was just content for your documentary? You were never content. Doughton's eyes locked on hers. The first time I saw you outside your boutique, crying over that vandalized window, something shifted. You weren't a subject to study. You were a person in pain who deserved help. And when I helped you, when we started talking, I remembered what it felt like to connect with someone genuinely. But you kept lying, Obioma said bitterly. I did, Doughton admitted. At first because I didn't think we'd see each other again. Then because I was afraid if you knew who I was, everything would change. You'd see the billionaire, not the man. You'd want something from me like everyone else does. I never wanted anything from you. Exactly. His voice softened. That's what made knowing you so precious. For the first time in years, someone valued my company, my words, my thoughts, not my bank account or business connections. I was terrified of losing that. Obioma sank against the wall, overwhelmed. You should have told me. I know. And I'm sorry. I was planning to tell you yesterday, but then Bayo contacted you, and I couldn't let your legal crisis wait for my confession. Doughton moved closer but didn't touch her. I'm telling you now, Obioma. Everything. My real name, my real life, why I was in disguise. And I'm asking, no begging for your forgiveness. I don't know if I can forgive this. I understand. Doton's expression was acceptance mixed with sadness. But whether you forgive me or not, I'm still helping with your legal situation. That's not conditional on our friendship. You deserve justice, and I have the resources to make sure you get it. Obioma stared at this man, this stranger who wasn't a stranger, this billionaire who'd pretended to be homeless, this person who'd shown her more genuine kindness than her own husband ever had. Did any of it mean anything to you? She asked quietly. Or was it all just research? It meant everything. Doton's voice was raw with emotion. You reminded me what matters. Authenticity, resilience, genuine human connection. I haven't felt this alive, this real, in years. Before Obioma could respond, Attorney Cunnell opened the door. Sorry to interrupt, but the EFCC investigator just called. They want to interview Mrs. Nwosu tomorrow morning. The EFCC headquarters in Ikoyi was intimidating. Grey concrete, stern security, the weight of federal authority in every corner. Obioma sat across from investigator Ibrahim Musa, Attorney Cunnell beside her, while two other officers observed. Mrs. Nwosu, we've been investigating your ex-husband's business dealings, Ibrahim began. Your name appears on several accounts used to launder money from fraudulent real estate transactions. I had no knowledge of those accounts, Obioma stated clearly. My husband controlled all business finances during our marriage. Yet your signature appears on opening documents. Cunnell interjected. My client's signature was forged. We have a handwriting expert ready to testify. Additionally, Mrs. Nwosu had no access to these accounts, no transactions in her name, no withdrawals or transfers. Her ex-husband fraudulently used her identity. Ibrahim studied Obioma carefully. Why would he do that? To protect himself, Obioma said. And to have someone to blame if he got caught. I'm his ex-wife. He's already destroyed my reputation publicly. Framing me for his crimes is just another weapon. Do you have proof he acted maliciously toward you? Obioma pulled out her phone, showing the messages, the photos of Tun's wedding designed to hurt her, the blog interview where he lied about their marriage. Then she produced Bayo's testimony, a signed statement detailing Tun's schemes and his intention to frame Obioma. Ibrahim's expression shifted from skeptical to thoughtful. After 3 hours of questioning, he leaned back. Mrs. Nwosu, based on this evidence, we believe you're a victim of your ex-husband's crimes, not a co-conspirator. However, we may need your testimony when this goes to trial. Relief flooded through Obioma. Of course. Whatever you need. Outside, she nearly collapsed from the adrenaline crash. Cunnell steadied her. You did well. You're in the clear. Doton was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against a black Mercedes that probably cost more than her former boutique. When he saw her face, relief washed over his features. It went okay? He asked. They believe me. I'm not being charged. Obioma felt tears threatening again, this time from relief, not betrayal. Thank God. Doton's eyes closed briefly. I was so worried. They stood in awkward silence until Obioma said, Thank you. For the lawyer, for your help. I couldn't have done this without you. You're stronger than you know, Doton replied. But everyone needs support sometimes. I'm still angry at you for lying. I know. But I also understand why you did it. Obioma sighed. In a twisted way, maybe I needed you to be just Doton, not Doton Olamide the billionaire. Maybe we both needed that simplicity. Hope flickered in Doton's eyes. Does this mean you might forgive me eventually? Eventually. She couldn't help a small smile. But you're going to have to earn it. I can do that. Doton grinned, that genuine warm smile she'd come to treasure. I'm actually very persistent when properly motivated. As they drove away from EFCC headquarters, Obioma's phone exploded with notifications. News outlets were reporting Tun's arrest. His assets were frozen, his company shuttered, his reputation destroyed. The man who tried to bury her was now buried himself. But Obioma felt no victory, no satisfaction. Just exhaustion and a quiet hope that maybe, finally, she could start rebuilding her life. Drop a like if you saw that twist coming. Doughton is a billionaire. What do you think happens next? 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal proceedings and media frenzy. Tun's arrest made national headlines. Real estate mogul arrested for N$500 million fraud scheme. Every blog, every newspaper, every television station covered his fall from grace. Yemisi gave a tearful interview claiming she'd been deceived, that she was just an innocent girl manipulated by an older man. She filed for divorce and custody of baby Tun Jr. within days of his arrest. The same woman who'd stood in Obioma's home flaunting her pregnancy now played the victim card perfectly. Obioma watched it all with detached fascination. This was the man she'd spent 15 years with. A fraud, a liar, a manipulator. And she'd never truly known him. She hadn't seen Doughton since the EFCC interview. He'd texted several times, respectful messages checking on her well-being, but keeping his distance. She appreciated the space but found herself missing their evening conversations more than she wanted to admit. Her sister Ngozi had other opinions. A billionaire. Sister. A billionaire was interested in you, and you're avoiding him because he didn't introduce himself properly. Ngozi paced Obioma's small flat. Do you know how many women would kill for this opportunity? That's exactly the problem, Obioma said quietly. How many women see him as an opportunity, not a person? He lied because everyone wants something from him. I understand that now. So forgive him. I'm trying, Ngozi. But trust doesn't rebuild overnight. Her phone rang. Attorney Kunnell. Mrs. Nwosu, good news. The EFCC has formally cleared you of all involvement. They're actually investigating whether you could file charges against your ex-husband for identity theft and fraud against you personally. Relief washed over her. She was truly free, legally, financially, completely free of Tun Nwosu. There's something else, Kunnell continued. During the asset investigation, they discovered your ex-husband had hidden properties and accounts. Under Nigerian law, you may be entitled to a portion of marital assets acquired during your marriage. I'm talking substantial compensation, possibly several million naira. Obioma sat down heavily. I don't want his money. It's not his money, it's yours. You were married 15 years. You contributed to that household, supported his business ventures. You're legally entitled to your share, regardless of how the marriage ended. After she hung up, Obioma stared at her small flat. She could move out of here, restart her boutique, rebuild everything Tund had destroyed. Justice wasn't just about him going to prison. It was about her reclaiming what was rightfully hers. Her phone buzzed with a text from Doughton. I know you need space, but I'm speaking at a tech conference tomorrow at Eco Hotel. If you want to see the real me, the version everyone else sees, you're welcome to attend. No pressure. Just an invitation. D. Obioma stared at the message for a long time before responding, What time? The ballroom at Eco Hotel was packed with Nigeria's tech elite, entrepreneurs, and business leaders. Obioma felt severely underdressed in her simple dress, surrounded by designer suits and expensive jewelry. She found a seat in the back, watching as the moderator introduced the keynote speaker. Doughton Olamide, founder and CEO of Olamide Tech, visionary entrepreneur, philanthropist, and one of Africa's most influential technology leaders. The man who walked onto that stage was different from her Doughton. This version was polished, confident, commanding, speaking about artificial intelligence, software development, and market expansion with the ease of someone born to lead. The audience hung on his every word. People took notes, recorded videos, tweeted quotes in real time. This was the Doughton the world knew. Brilliant, successful, untouchable. But halfway through his speech, something shifted. Doughton paused, his eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on Obioma in the back. His expression softened, just for a moment, before he continued. I want to talk about something personal, Doton said, deviating from his prepared remarks. A few months ago, I did something unusual. I walked away from this world, the conferences, the business meetings, the constant performance, and lived as an ordinary person on Lagos streets. Murmurs rippled through the audience. I wanted to understand what I'd lost in my pursuit of success. I'd built an empire but destroyed my marriage. I had millions of followers but no real friends. I was lonely in ways that money couldn't fix. Doton's voice carried raw honesty. And in those months of anonymity, I learned something crucial. Real wealth isn't in bank accounts. It's in genuine human connection. He looked directly at Obioma. I met someone who taught me that. Someone who saw value in a stranger with nothing to offer except conversation and kindness. She reminded me what matters: integrity, resilience, authenticity. She didn't see Doton Olamide the billionaire. She saw Doton the human being. And that gift was priceless. The audience was silent, captivated. So my challenge to all of you, to myself, is this: in our pursuit of success, let's not forget our humanity. Let's remember that the person serving you food, driving your taxi, cleaning your office, they have dreams, struggles, wisdom to share. They're not invisible. They're not stepping stones to your success. They're human beings deserving of dignity and respect. The applause was thunderous. But Doton wasn't finished. And to the woman in the back who's wondering if she can trust me again after I lied about my identity, I understand your hesitation. I violated your trust in the name of protecting myself. That was selfish and wrong. But everything else was real. Every conversation, every moment of connection. That was the most authentic I've been in years. And if you give me another chance, I promise to never hide who I am from you again. Every head in the ballroom turned to look at Obioma. She felt her face flush, felt the weight of hundreds of eyes, felt the absurdity of this public declaration. But she also felt something else: the truth of his words, the sincerity in his voice, the courage it took to be this vulnerable in front of his peers. After the speech, people mobbed Doton, business cards thrust forward, photo requests, networking opportunities. But his eyes kept finding Obioma across the room. Finally, he extracted himself and walked over. Up close, she could see the nervousness behind his polished exterior. That was quite a speech, Obioma said. Too much. Doton winced. I may have gotten carried away. Definitely too much. But she smiled. Though I appreciate the public apology. I meant every word. Doton's expression was earnest. Obioma, I know I hurt you. I know trust has to be rebuilt. But I'm asking for that chance. Obioma studied him. This complicated man who was both the beggar on the street and the billionaire on stage. Both versions were real. Both versions were Doton. I'm not looking for a rich savior, she said carefully. I've spent my whole adult life being defined by a man, first as Tun's wife, then as his discarded ex. I need to figure out who Obioma is on her own terms. I understand. But, she continued, I also don't want to throw away something real because I'm afraid of being hurt again. So here's my proposal. We start over. Properly this time. No disguises, no lies. Just two people getting to know each other honestly. Hope lit up Doton's face. I can do that. And slowly, Obioma emphasized. I'm not rushing into anything. My divorce isn't even final yet. I'm still rebuilding my life, my career, my sense of self. Slowly works for me. Doton extended his hand formally. Hello, I'm Doton Olamide. Tech entrepreneur, divorced father of one, currently trying to remember how to be human instead of just successful. Obioma shook his hand, playing along. Obioma Nwosu. Fashion designer, recently divorced, learning that losing everything can sometimes mean gaining yourself. They both laughed, the tension finally breaking. Would you like to have coffee sometime? Doton asked. Somewhere quiet where we can talk without an audience. I'd like that. Obioma smiled. But you're buying. I know you can afford it now. As they exchanged numbers, real numbers this time, Obioma felt something she hadn't felt in months. Genuine hope. Not hope that a man would save her, but hope that maybe, just maybe, she could build something new with someone who understood both struggle and success. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Tund Nwosu denied bail, remains in custody pending trial. She showed it to Doton. He read it without expression. How do you feel? He asked. Sad, Obioma admitted. Not for him, for the 15 years I wasted on someone who never valued me. But also relieved. He can't hurt me anymore. No, he can't. Doton's voice was firm. And anyone who tries to hurt you in the future will have to go through me first. Obioma raised an eyebrow. I can protect myself. I know you can. But everyone deserves backup. Doton grinned. Consider me your backup. As they walked out of Eco Hotel together, Obioma realized her life had completely transformed in just a few months. She'd lost her marriage, her business, her social status. But she'd gained something more valuable, herself. And possibly, just possibly, a chance at real love with someone who saw her true worth. The journey wasn't over. There were still legal battles to fight, a career to rebuild, healing to complete. But for the first time since Tund had shouted at her to leave their penthouse, Obioma felt like the protagonist of her own story instead of a victim in someone else's narrative. And that made all the difference. Hit like if you believe in second chances. Doton proved himself, but does Obioma need a man at all, or should she focus on herself? 1 month later, Obioma stood in front of a new boutique space in Lekki Phase 1. The legal settlement from her marriage had finally come through. 8 million naira, representing her share of assets acquired during 15 years of marriage. Attorney Kunnel had fought hard, and Tund, desperate to avoid additional charges, had agreed to the settlement. 8 million naira. Enough to restart her business properly, secure her future, breathe again. It's perfect, Ngozi said, walking through the empty space. Prime location, good foot traffic, room to grow. Obioma nodded, imagining where display racks would go, where the fitting rooms should be, how she'd arrange the space to reflect her vision. Not Tund's money, not anyone else's expectations. Just hers. Her phone rang. Unknown number, but she answered anyway. Obioma. Tund's voice was barely recognizable. Rough, defeated, desperate. Please. I need 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of your time. How did you get this number? Does it matter? Please. I'm begging you. Against every instinct, Obioma agreed. They met at a small cafe in Ikeja, neutral ground where Tund couldn't cause a scene. He arrived in a prison transport van, accompanied by guards. He'd been denied bail pending trial, and the change in him was shocking. The confident, arrogant man who'd kicked her out of their penthouse was gone. This Tund was gaunt, his expensive suit replaced by prison clothes, his eyes hollow with desperation. Thank you for coming, he said as he sat across from her, guards watching nearby. You have 5 minutes. I'm sorry. The words tumbled out. For everything. For how I treated you, for the lies, for trying to frame you. I was wrong about everything. Obioma remained silent, waiting. Yemisi left me the day I was arrested. Took Tund Jr. and went back to her family. She's already filed for divorce, claiming I deceived her about my finances. Tund laughed bitterly. She never loved me. She loved what I could give her. The moment I had nothing, she disappeared. And you're telling me this why? Because you deserved better. Tund's voice cracked. You were loyal for 15 years. You supported me through failures, stood by me when my business was struggling, never asked for more than I could give. And I threw you away like trash for a woman who only wanted my money. You're right. I did deserve better. I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you, Tund. Obioma's voice was surprisingly calm. I pity you. You had something real and destroyed it chasing something fake. You valued status over substance, appearance over authenticity. And now you're paying the price. Tund wiped his eyes. The trial starts next week. My lawyers say I'm looking at 10 to 15 years in prison. Everything I built is gone. The properties, the business, my reputation. I have nothing. You have a son, Obioma pointed out. Tund Jr. He's innocent in all this. Yemisi won't let me near him. Says I'm a bad influence. The pain in his voice was genuine. I destroyed everything for that child. And now I can't even see him. For a moment, just a moment, Obioma felt sympathy. But then she remembered the spray-painted window, the public humiliation, the lies spread about her, the attempt to frame her for his crimes. What do you want from me, Tund? Forgiveness. His eyes pleaded. I know I don't deserve it. I know I destroyed you in every way possible. But I need to hear that someday, maybe, you won't hate me. That my son won't grow up learning his father was a monster who destroyed a good woman. Obioma was quiet for a long time. I forgive you, Tund. His head snapped up, disbelief written across his face. Not for you, she continued. For me. Because carrying hatred and bitterness only poisons my future. You hurt me deeply, but I'm not giving you power over my life anymore. I forgive you so I can move forward freely. Thank you, Tund whispered. That's more grace than I deserve. Yes, it is. Obioma stood. Goodbye, Tund. I hope prison gives you time to become a better man, for your son's sake. As she walked away, Tund called out, Obioma, that man you're seeing, Doten Olamide, he's a good man. Treat him better than you treated me. You deserve happiness. Obioma turned back, surprised. How did you know about Doten? I have eyes everywhere, even from prison. A ghost of his old smile appeared. And the blogs are already speculating. The billionaire and the abandoned ex-wife. It's quite the story. It's not a story, Obioma said firmly. It's my life. And for the first time in years, I'm the one writing it. She left without looking back. That evening, Obioma met Doten at a quiet restaurant in Victoria Island. Over the past month, they'd been taking things slowly. Coffee dates, phone calls, getting to know each other without pretense or disguise. How did the meeting go? Doten asked, already knowing she'd seen Tund. Surprisingly well. Obioma shared what happened. He apologized. Actually apologized. Do you believe him? I believe he's sorry for the consequences, not necessarily for his actions. Obioma sipped her wine. But I meant what I said. I forgive him. Not because he deserves it, but because I deserve peace. Doten reached across the table, taking her hand. You're remarkable, you know that? I'm surviving. There's a difference. No. His grip tightened. You're thriving. You took everything he threw at you and turned it into strength. You could have become bitter, vengeful, broken. Instead, you became more yourself. Obioma felt tears prick her eyes. Some days I still feel broken. Broken things can be repaired. Doten smiled gently. Sometimes the cracks become the most beautiful parts. They finished dinner and walked along the Victoria Island waterfront. The ocean stretched endlessly before them, reflecting city lights like scattered diamonds. I signed the lease today, Obioma said. The new boutique space in Lekki. That's wonderful. When's the grand opening? 2 months. I want to do it right this time. Better inventory, stronger marketing, a real business plan. She paused. And I want to do it independently. No investors, no partners. Just me building something that's truly mine. I respect that. Doten's voice held admiration. Though if you ever need business advice, free advice, I'm available. I might take you up on that. Obioma leaned against the railing, watching waves crash against the shore. Doten, Can I ask you something? Anything. Why me? You could have any woman in Nigeria. Models, celebrities, women without complicated histories or ex-husbands in prison. Why invest time in someone as messy as me? Doughton turned her to face him, his expression serious. Because you're real. Every other woman I've dated since my divorce has wanted the billionaire, the lifestyle, the status, the Instagram posts. You wanted conversation. You wanted kindness. You valued me when you thought I had nothing. But now you've revealed who you really are. And you're still keeping me at arm's length, Doughton finished. You're not rushing into my world, not trying to change yourself to fit my lifestyle. You're building your own life first. That's exactly why I'm interested. Obioma felt her resistance crumbling. This man had seen her at her worst. Broken, struggling, vandalized windows and spray-painted insults, and still chose to stay. Not to save her, but to walk beside her. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared of trusting again, scared of being hurt, scared that this is too good to be real. Fear is reasonable after what you've been through. Doughton's thumb traced gentle circles on her hand. But Obioma, I'm scared too. Scared of losing you because I'm not patient enough, scared my world will overwhelm you, scared you'll never fully trust me after I lied about my identity. We're quite the pair, aren't we? She laughed softly. We are. Doughton smiled. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need perfect, just honest. As they stood there on the waterfront, Obioma felt something shift inside her. Not love, not yet. But the possibility of love. The permission to hope again. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Tund Nwosu trial begins tomorrow. Prosecutors seek maximum sentence. Tomorrow, Tund would face justice. Tomorrow, her past would officially close. And tomorrow, Obioma's future would truly begin. Smash that like if you believe Obioma is finally getting the happiness she deserves. Her journey from broken to thriving is almost complete. The Federal High Court in Lagos was packed with journalists, bloggers, and curious onlookers when Tund's trial began. Obioma sat in the public gallery, Ngozi beside her for support. She hadn't planned to attend, but Attorney Cunnell had called. Prosecutors wanted her available in case they needed testimony about the forged documents. Tund was led into the courtroom in handcuffs, his prison uniform a stark contrast to the designer suits he once wore. When his eyes found Obioma in the crowd, something flickered across his face. Shame, regret, maybe even longing. The prosecution's case was devastating. They presented evidence of fraudulent property sales, falsified investment opportunities, money laundering through shell companies. Tund had stolen over 500 million naira from investors who trusted him. During a recess, Obioma stepped outside for air. The courthouse lobby was buzzing with conversations when a woman's voice cut through the noise. Obioma. She turned. Yemisi stood there, baby Tund Jr. on her hip. The young woman looked nothing like the confident mistress who'd stood in Obioma's home months ago. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple Ankara. Her face was makeup-free, exhausted. Can we talk? Yemisi asked quietly. Every instinct told Obioma to refuse. But something in Yemisi's eyes, vulnerability, desperation, made her pause. They found a quiet corner. Baby Tund Jr. slept peacefully, oblivious to the drama surrounding his existence. I owe you an apology, Yemisi began. For everything. For the affair, for coming to your home, for being cruel when you were already hurting. Why now? Obioma's voice was guarded. Because I understand now. Yemisi's eyes filled with tears. I thought Tund was my ticket to a better life. Money, status, security. I convinced myself he was a victim of a bitter wife who couldn't give him children. I believed his lies because they benefited me. And now I'm a single mother with no support, no money, a baby to feed, and a name associated with a criminal. The man I destroyed a marriage for is going to prison, and I'm left with nothing but consequences. Yemisi looked down at her sleeping son. I was 26, stupid, and greedy. You were the victim, and I helped victimize you. Obioma studied this young woman. Barely more than a girl, really. It would be easy to hate her, to enjoy her downfall. But looking at baby Tun Jr., innocent and vulnerable, Obioma couldn't find it in herself to be cruel. That baby didn't ask for any of this, Obioma said softly. He deserves better than being caught in his parents' mistakes. I know. Yemisi wiped her eyes. I'm trying to give him better. I'm back in school, studying accounting. My mother is helping with childcare. It's hard, but I'm trying to build something real instead of chasing shortcuts. That's good. That's really good. I just wanted you to know, I'm sorry. Truly sorry. And I hope someday you can forgive me, not for my sake, but so you can be free of all this ugliness. Yemisi stood, adjusting the baby on her hip. I heard you're opening a new boutique. I hope it's successful. You deserve every good thing. She walked away before Obioma could respond, leaving her sitting there processing another unexpected moment of grace. The trial lasted 3 days. On the final day, the judge read the verdict, guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Tun's shoulders slumped in defeat. His mother wailed from the gallery. Journalists frantically typed updates on their phones. Tund Nwosu, the judge continued, you have shown a pattern of deception, manipulation, and criminal behavior that has devastated numerous lives. You betrayed investors' trust, forged documents, and attempted to frame your ex-wife for crimes she did not commit. This court sentences you to 12 years imprisonment and orders you to make restitution to all victims. 12 years. Tund would be 57 when he was released, if he survived prison that long. As guards led him away, Tund looked back at Obioma one final time. She saw it clearly in his face. The full weight of his choices, the recognition of what he'd destroyed, the knowledge that he'd traded genuine love for fool's gold. Outside the courthouse, journalists swarmed. Mrs. Nwosu, how do you feel about the verdict? Obioma cleared her throat, choosing her words carefully. Justice has been served. I hope this sends a message that fraud and manipulation have consequences. But I also hope my ex-husband uses his time in prison to become a better man, for his son's sake. What about his new wife, Yemisi? Do you blame her for your marriage ending? My marriage ended because of choices my ex-husband made. No one else is responsible for that. Obioma's voice was firm. I'm focused on my future now, not my past. Is it true you're dating billionaire Dotun Olamide? Obioma smiled slightly. I'm rebuilding my life and my business. Everything else is private. As she pushed through the crowd toward the waiting car, she saw Dotun leaning against his Mercedes, having kept his distance but wanting to be there for support. How are you? He asked as she approached. Relieved. Exhausted. Ready to move forward. She looked back at the courthouse. That chapter is finally closed. Good. Dotun opened the car door for her. Because I have something to show you. They drove to Lekki, but instead of stopping at her boutique space, he pulled up to a luxury apartment building she'd admired many times. Dotun, what? Just trust me. He led her inside, up to the 10th floor, and opened the door to a stunning 3-bedroom apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. It's beautiful, Obioma breathed. But why are we here? Because you've been living in that cramped flat in Ikeja for months, and you deserve better. Dotun handed her a key. This is yours. 6 months rent paid, utilities included. Consider it a business investment, a proper home for a successful entrepreneur. Dotun, I can't accept. Yes, you can. His voice was gentle but firm. Obioma, you received 8 million naira in your settlement. You're investing all of it in your boutique, which is smart business. But you also need to invest in yourself. In comfort, security, peace. Let me do this. Not as your savior, but as someone who wants to see you thrive. Obioma walked through the apartment. Spacious bedrooms, a modern kitchen, a balcony with breathtaking views. It was everything she'd dreamed of and nothing she'd allowed herself to hope for. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Doton stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. Say you'll stop punishing yourself for things that weren't your fault. Say you'll accept that good things can happen to you too. Tears streamed down Obioma's face, not from sadness but from overwhelming emotion. This man, who'd started as a mysterious beggar and revealed himself as a billionaire, was offering her not just material comfort but the permission to believe she deserved it. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll take it. Thank you. Doton crossed the room and pulled her into an embrace, their first real hug. Obioma melted into it, feeling safe, valued, seen in ways she'd never experienced with Tund. I'm falling for you, Doton murmured against her hair. I know it's too soon, I know you need time, but I needed you to know. Obioma pulled back to look at him. I'm scared of what I'm feeling. It's too fast, too intense. Then we slow down. Doton cupped her face gently. We move at whatever pace you need. I'm not going anywhere, Obioma. I'm here for the long journey, not just the destination. Standing in that beautiful apartment, wrapped in the arms of a man who saw her worth, Obioma felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the desperate hope of a drowning woman grasping at straws, but the solid, grounded hope of someone who'd survived the storm and could finally see clear skies ahead. Thank you, she said again. For everything. For seeing me when I was invisible. For helping me when you had no reason to. For being patient when I was difficult. You were never difficult, Doton said. You were healing. There's a difference. They stood there as the sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in oranges and purples, the city sprawling below them in all its chaotic beauty. Tund was going to prison. Yemisi was rebuilding her life. And Obioma was finally, truly free. Drop a like if you believe in karma. Tund got exactly what he deserved, and Obioma is thriving. 6 months later, Obioma stood in front of her new boutique, Grace Threads Boutique, watching workers install the final sign above the entrance. The name was deliberate, Grace for her grandmother's necklace that had seen her through the darkest times, and a reminder that Grace had brought her through everything. The boutique was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed carefully curated African designs, modern interpretations of traditional fabrics, elegant ready-to-wear pieces, and a small section for bride-to-be consultations. Everything reflected Obioma's vision, her taste, her journey. It's perfect, sister, Ngozi said, tears in her eyes. Grandmother would be so proud. I hope so. Obioma touched the necklace at her throat, the one piece of jewelry she wore every day. Her phone buzzed. Doton. Can't wait for tonight. You've worked so hard for this. Proud of you. D. Their relationship had evolved slowly over the past months. Doton had kept his promise. No pressure, no rushing, just consistent presence and genuine support. They'd had dinner dates, long conversations, shared dreams and fears. He'd met Ngozi, who'd given her enthusiastic approval. She'd met his daughter during one of her visits from London, a sweet 12-year-old who'd warmed to Obioma immediately. But they hadn't defined what they were. Obioma still needed space to fully find herself outside of any man's shadow. And Doton, to his credit, respected that completely. The grand opening that evening was beyond anything Obioma had imagined. The boutique was packed with customers, well-wishers, and even some of the society women who'd abandoned her after the divorce. They came with apologies and compliments, conveniently forgetting how they'd treated her. Obioma was gracious but not naive. She knew they were here because she'd rebuilt successfully, because her connection to Doton Olamide was public knowledge, because success attracted people the way failure repelled them. Mrs. Nwosu. Mrs. Folake Martins, the woman who'd told her she was finished, approached with a plastic smile. Your boutique is lovely. I was wrong about you. I hope we can move past our previous misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding, Mrs. Martins, Obioma said calmly. You believed lies about me and treated me cruelly. But I appreciate you coming tonight." She walked away before Mrs. Martins could respond, no longer interested in validation from people who'd kicked her when she was down. Doughton arrived an hour into the event, and the energy in the room shifted. Heads turned, whispers circulated. The billionaire tech mogul at a boutique opening? The blogs would have a field day. But Doughton only had eyes for Obioma. He crossed the room, took her hand, and kissed her cheek in front of everyone. "Congratulations," he said. "You did it. All by yourself. Not entirely by myself." Obioma smiled. "I had help from people who believed in me. You would have succeeded regardless." Doughton's voice carried absolute certainty. "You're unstoppable, Obioma Nwosu." As the evening wound down and the last customers left, Obioma and Doughton stood alone in the boutique. She'd kicked off her heels, exhausted but exhilarated. "I can't believe this is real," she said, looking around. 6 months ago, I was closing my old shop, broken and defeated. Now look at this." "You rebuilt from nothing," Doughton said. "That takes extraordinary strength." "I had help." She turned to face him. "From you. From Ngozi. From people who saw me when I felt invisible." "Obioma." Doughton took both her hands. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." Her heart raced. "Okay. What are we?" "I know you needed time to heal, to find yourself, and I respect that. But it's been 6 months. I'm in love with you. Completely, deeply in love with you. And I need to know if you feel the same, or if I should accept that we're just friends." Obioma's breath caught. Love. He'd said it plainly, without games or manipulation. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Terrified of trusting again, terrified of losing myself in another relationship, terrified that this feeling is too good to be real." "That's not an answer to my question." "I'm getting there." She smiled through tears. "Doughton, you appeared in my life when I needed kindness most. You saw value in me when I saw nothing. You've been patient, honest, supportive, everything Tund never was. And yes, I'm in love with you too. I've been in love with you for months. But I was scared to admit it, scared to be vulnerable again." Doughton's face broke into the widest smile she'd ever seen. "Say that again." "I'm in love with you, Doughton Olamide." He pulled her close, kissing her softly, thoroughly, like they had all the time in the world. And maybe they did. Maybe this was just the beginning of something beautiful. When they finally pulled apart, Doughton reached into his jacket pocket. "I know this might seem fast, but I've been carrying this around for weeks, waiting for the right moment." He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a stunning diamond ring. Elegant, simple, perfect. "Obioma Nwosu, I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm not asking you to change your life or give up your independence. I'm asking if you'll consider building a future with me, a partnership between equals, built on honesty, respect, and genuine love. Will you wear this ring as a promise that we're choosing each other, choosing to try, choosing love even though it's scary?" Obioma looked at the ring, then at Doughton's face. This man who disguised himself as a beggar to find authenticity, who'd seen her worth when society had discarded her, who'd waited patiently while she healed. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll choose you. I'll choose us." Doughton slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, just like everything else about them. 3 years later, Obioma stood in her expanded boutique, now a chain with 3 locations across Lagos, adjusting the dress of a radiant bride-to-be. Grace Threads had become one of the most sought-after bridal boutiques in Nigeria, known for its elegant designs and Obioma's personal touch with every client. Her phone buzzed with a text from Doughton. "Don't forget, dinner with the foundation board at 6. And our daughter wants to show you her science project when we get home." Our daughter. Doughton's daughter from his first marriage now split her time between London and Lagos, and she'd started calling Obioma Mama O with genuine affection. They'd also begun fostering a young girl whose mother was in prison, giving her the stability and love every child deserved. Obioma and Doton had married in a small, intimate ceremony 2 years ago. Nothing like the lavish spectacle Tund had demanded. Just close friends, family, and the people who'd supported them through everything. Together, they'd launched the Grace Foundation, providing business grants, legal support, and counseling for divorced women trying to rebuild their lives. Obioma personally mentored dozens of women, sharing her story of survival and transformation. Tund was still in prison, with 8 years remaining on his sentence. Yemisi had completed her accounting degree and now worked for a reputable firm, raising Tund Jr. with the help of her family. She'd sent Obioma a Christmas card every year, a small gesture of ongoing remorse and gratitude. Sometimes Obioma thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, broken, defeated, convinced she was nothing without a man's approval. That woman felt like a stranger now. She'd learned that losing everything had actually freed her to become everything. That true wealth wasn't in bank accounts but in authentic relationships, hard-earned independence, and the courage to choose love again despite the risk. As she locked up the boutique that evening and headed to meet Doton, Obioma caught her reflection in the window. She looked different now, not just older, but stronger, more confident, more herself. She touched her grandmother's necklace, smiling at the memory of that terrible night when Tund had kicked her out. If she could go back and tell that devastated woman what the future held, would she believe it? Probably not. But she'd survived. She'd rebuilt. She'd found love that honored her instead of diminishing her. And that was the greatest victory of all. Her phone rang. Doton's face filled the screen. "Hey, beautiful. Traffic is terrible. I'll be 5 minutes late." "That's okay," Obioma said, her voice warm with contentment. "I'll wait for you. I've got all the time in the world." Because they did. They had time, love, partnership, and a future built on honesty instead of illusions. Tund had tried to destroy her, but he'd actually set her free. And for that, surprisingly, Obioma was grateful. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button. Share it with anyone who needs to know that losing everything can be the beginning of finding yourself. Obioma went from abandoned wife to successful entrepreneur to truly loved woman, all because she refused to let betrayal define her destiny. What was your favorite part of this story? Drop it in the comments. And tell us, where are you watching from? We love hearing from our global family. Don't forget to subscribe to Stories by Stoner for more powerful African stories about love, betrayal, redemption, and triumph. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next emotional journey. Remember, your current situation is not your final destination. Just like Obioma, you can rebuild, rise, and thrive. Share this story with someone who needs this message today. Until next time, this is Stories by Stoner reminding you, grace will carry you through. Red Heart. Thank you for joining us on Obioma's journey. Which chapter impacted you most? Comment below. Backhand index pointing down.